A new building joining the riverfront with the goal of addressing an education crisis.
The Children's Museum is leaving its century-old home. 6 News' John Chapman reports it's all part of a bigger project looking to bring more people downtown.
The Omaha Children's Museum has been in its current location since 1989. This 100-year-old building was once home to a car dealership. The new museum will grow from the current building space of 60 to 75,000 square feet.
Which will feel like a whole lot more because it's not an old car dealership. So we're gaining more than 15,000 square feet. We're gaining a lot more space because it'll be purpose-built.
Veronica Villa and her 2 boys are excited about the new museum. They travel and play in children's museums across the country. Mom tells us Omaha can do better.
Some of the toys are broken or they already been used so much, or some of the exhibits are closed or something. I've seen at other museums they have a lot more activities, more items for them to do.
All of that will change when the new Children's Museum is complete. There will be more exhibits and more activities, and the children will learn through play.
There's an early childhood crisis, so there are not enough quality child care organizations, child care centers, and so we are going to welcome those advocates into that new museum and support them. And the museum will be it's always been about early childhood education, but we're going to be more intentional about it.
There's also more development just east of the new Children's Museum. A 12-story, $87 million wood timber apartment building will be constructed on top of a 4-story public parking garage. The beam will offer 261 1- and 2-bedroom apartments and will feature massed timber beams in its construction.
You're taking the kind of the old loft feel along with new apartments, and you're getting the best of both worlds.
Omaha Mayor Jean Sothert says there is unprecedented investment going on right now in downtown Omaha. The Mutual of Omaha skyscraper going up and more apartments being constructed in the city's core. Mayor Sothert credits public-private partnership and the future streetcar for the growth explosion.
Since we announced the streetcar, we predicted originally that there would be about $2 billion worth of development along the corridor in the first 15 years. By the end of this year, 2024, we're going to have $1.5 billion already that we have either announced or projects that are underway or soon to be announced.
On your side in downtown Omaha, I'm John Chapman, 6 News.
And the project also includes parking garages built by the city.